Okay, this is going to be a real quick video, part 9 of making an Old West holster. So I just got done soaking this leather in hot water. I just ran it under a sink in my basement. So it's completely soaked. One thing you're going to want to do before this sat more like that, you're going to want to grab it and flatten that out. You're going to want to kind of work the edges here. Get them as flat as possible with the design. Now, in all honesty, I made 2 mistakes with this pattern. These aren't big enough. They should have been a little wider. And the whole holster itself is a little tighter than I wanted it. I wanted it high retention. I wanted it bigger, or excuse me, smaller than the last one, but I went a little too small. Something that you really can't tell till you get done when you're making a new pattern. But so anyway, since I made this thing a little smaller than what I actually wanted it, I ran it under really hot water. Now what hot water does is it opens up those fibers or whatever, makes it a little more pliable than what cold water would do. So I was just able to shove that gun clear to the end. Before, it would stop about right there. So now that I've got that in there and it's sitting, it's about where I wanted it. Trigger guard is right there where my pointer finger is, and that's about where I wanted it, just the back of the trigger. The trigger is right about there, which is about perfect. I wanted it to sit a little higher in this one than it did in the other one that's similar. Okay, now that we got that in there, just going to kind of work this around, stretch it till it looks a little better. Okay, now we're going to want to press around that gun. It's called wet forming. Once this dries, it should hold that shape, whatever we've formed it to. That's why if you make your pattern too big or too small, when you're wet forming it, you can manipulate that. Now, sometimes I've gotten it wet with the dye and just wet formed it that, totally eliminated this step, but I wasn't going to be able to use a like room temperature water to get it wet enough to shove it down in there as far as I wanted it, so I had to do this. But I've seen people take like a piece of antler. There's other tools to get more definite lines. Another thing I want to do is called the throat. Just want to kind of bend that up a little bit and work that around. Not a whole lot, just a little bit, so that your gun doesn't get caught on that when you're reholstering it. Okay. Skirt here's got more ripples in it than I'd like to see, but that might just be what we're dealing with the design and everything, which a lot of them did look like that in the 1800s, and that's kind of the look I'm going for, so I guess that's okay. Just going to kind of work that in. This is going to need to dry at least 24 hours. I would, it's completely soaked right now. Literally, it's still kind of warm. I just soaked it and I started the video. So I'll come back, I don't know, every so often, whether it's 15 minutes, an hour, whatever, and just kind of rework. Like I'm forming it around the ejector tube, the cylinder, trigger guard, the barrel. At literally every part of this I want formed to the gun. And then I'll come back after it's sat for a while, probably pull the gun out, put it back in, rework it, because you want it to, because your front sight is going to be poking out just a little, So you're going to want to make sure that when it's as tight as this one is, it should have been a little bigger, but too late now. You're going to want to make sure that it comes out easy enough. Like I said, I wanted some retention. This will be about right, I think, when I get it done molding it. So that's pretty much what there is to wet forming, at least for what I do. I'm sure the professionals have better techniques and more tricks. Kind of push this out just a little. It'll help my reholstering. Push that out just a mite. Form that around that. So push like this, that's going to widen it out and make it a little bit less snug. Which, like I said, it was too snug. I want it snug, but not that snug. So you can kind of reshape your holster almost a little bit with wet forming it. Just keep working that. Make sure your throat is a little bit up, not a whole lot. Okay, I may or may not do some videos when I come back and adjust this later, but I'll for sure do one dyeing it and one with the final product. So I know it's a lot of videos. This is part 9 and there'll probably be 2 or 3 more, but it's a big process. If you were just using one ply of leather, either rough in or rough out, obviously you skip a lot of steps. And if you get lucky and do your pattern or buy a pattern pack, I've never done that. I feel that's cheating for me personally. I don't care if anybody else does it, I'm just not going to. I'm going to flatten the top of this and kind of bend it that way just a little. But, stick that under there so it keeps the shape I like. I'm going to put the hammer thong over too. Let that dry the way it sits there. So I think that's going to be it for this video. And tomorrow or whenever I get the rest of it done, I'll make some more videos. So that's it for right now. Please hit that like button if you like the video, and we'll catch you in the next one.